If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of the Extreme Sports Performance Podcast. My name is Ryan Blake. I'm the founder and CEO of Extreme Sports Performance. On today's show, I'm going to be speaking to Tristan Baker. Tristan is a friend and a colleague who I've known for 4 years. He's currently the head of performance at Go Perform in Reading and also a lead tutor for strength conditioning education. In this episode, I'm going to be asking Tristan the questions I ask all my guests. Who he is, what he does, where has he come from, or what has he done along the way? What are the 3 key moments from his career so far? What are his top 3 areas of interest? What are the top 3 most valuable things he's learnt to date? Who are his top 3 influencers? What are his top 3 resources for information? What are his top 3 sports performance exercises and or drills? What are his top 3 pieces of advice in life, exercise and or sport? And where can people find him? We also have a freestyle chat in between the questions and towards the end, like we usually do with all our other guests. We really enjoyed recording this podcast. We hope you enjoy listening to it. Here we go. Hi Tristan, thanks for joining us today on another episode of the Extreme Sports Performance Podcast. How's it going?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure.
Appreciate the opportunity, mate.
What have you been up to?
Lots is the short answer. Opened Go Perform back in November with myself and my colleagues Dan Buchanan and Luke Anthony. Things are really picking up now that we're coming into the springtime. I think people are starting to think about the off-season for a lot of team sports and also those sort of guys that want to get 6 packs for the beach in Las Vegas and all that sort of stuff. People are coming in and putting some good work in.
Awesome. So I'm going to ask you more in-depth questions about the specifics of Go Perform a bit later. Just before we do that, for those people who might not know who you are, could you give us a brief background history on where you've come from, what you've done, etc., up until this point?
So I did my undergrad degree at Loughborough University. Originally wanted to be a sports journalist. After my first semester, realised I hated writing, so thought about what else can I do, and strength and conditioning. I sort of found strength and conditioning pretty soon after that. Left university and set out on my own, self-employed, and worked with some youth athletes and some general population people as well, but sort of tried to push myself towards a strength and conditioning coach rather than a personal training kind of vibe. After that I got an internship at Reading Football Club and was lucky enough to be taken on there full-time. So I was there for 4 years. After that, so in 2015, I got a job in Formula One. So I was working one-to-one with a racing driver, which was a fantastic experience, travelling around the world with him, basically living in each other's pockets for a year through that season, through the 2015 season, which was really good fun, massive life experience and sort of great experience for work as well. So we spent a season in Formula One, and then we spent a bit of time in the World Endurance Championships after that. Which is a completely different kettle of fish to Formula One, completely different fitness requirements from the athlete, which is crazy to kind of go from one to the other in the space of a couple of months. After that, I bounced around for a few different things for a year. I spent a bit of time with youth athletes, helped set up a place in London, in the centre of London. I was part of the staff there. And then Dan, and Luke as well, who I worked with at Reading, had a really good close working relationship with them. They gave me a call in June 2017, around that time, said that they had this idea for Go Perform, which is where we are now, and it was a no-brainer to come in.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that little, I suppose, summary of where you've come from, what you've done. I think people find that interesting, just to know people's journeys and just to know people's experiences.
Yeah, I think I'm still kind of young in the game, if that makes sense. I'm kind of there's always things that I want to learn and pick up from, and I've done a little bit, and hopefully work with many more people to come. So yeah,
awesome. Whilst we're on the subject, or we've arrived at the destination of Go Perform, and we're currently sat in one of the treatment rooms at Go Perform, which is pretty impressive. Just to have a whiz-bang tour by yourself. Could you give people a little bit more information about what the main purpose of the facility is about and how it works?
Yeah, definitely. So we are a sports injury and human performance facility, and we're basically here to accommodate physiotherapy, soft tissue treatment, therapy, strength and conditioning, performance preparation, basically for any level of athlete, whether that's somebody who's competing at the top professional end, at the elite end, or even people who are coming off the street and have never been into the gym before, people who are coming back from injuries and want to work back to improve their performance that way. And we work not just on the athletic side of things, we work with people who, for example, we've got a lady who comes to see us who suffers from MS, and she uses our facilities here to basically improve her quality of life. We do some kids packages, so right now we're in the Easter holidays, and we've got some sort of kids sessions coming on as well, so we've got sort of the youth athlete side of things as well.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
And we're looking to branch into the corporate wellness world as well. So that's something for the future. So we're kind of human performance in the sense of whatever you do, perform well at it, rather than specifically being sports performance. We're trying to improve people's performance in every aspect of their lives. Awesome.
So as I came through the door, you've got your office on the right, and then toilet facilities and shower facilities slightly further along the wall, and then into the main gym. So let's just chat through what you've got in there. So the sprint track to the side of the gym.
Yes, as you come into the gym, there's a sprint track to your left, and it's 20 meters in length. So our gym is L-shaped.
Okay.
And we're a warehouse, converted warehouse essentially. Yep. We put our own flooring in, and we've sourced all of our strength and conditioning equipment as well. But yeah, we have a 20-meter track to the far left of the gym, and then at the very back we've got our strength area. So we've got a couple of racks in there, racks of dumbbells, kettlebells. We've got big, soft, heavy wall balls which we can throw against the breeze block walls here without causing too much damage. A little bit of noise for the neighbours, but it's all good. And then we've got a little area around to the right, which is more of a treatment and rehab area. So we've got a knee extension and a leg curl and a leg press area there as well. So people who are working back from their injuries have got sort of bespoke facilities to come and use for those specifically lower body injuries there. But there's a treatment table there as well, and that's another really important thing. So while there's gym sessions going on, we don't want people who are working back from an injury or who are recovering to get cooped up in a treatment room. As nice as it is to be up here, we don't want them to feel like they're isolated and away from things up here. There's a bed down there, and we've got game ready and recovery equipment down there that they can sort of stay in the gym and sort of be part of the conversation down there and see what else is going on.
Awesome. So yeah, I think that's a very important point from my experiences in different environments with different sports. I think just because someone's injured doesn't mean that they're not part of the normal team, or not part of the normal group, or not part of the normal schedule. And as our good friend Brendan Chapman says, injuries are opportunities to maybe get better at other things that you probably wouldn't have time to invest in as much if you weren't injured. So
yeah, definitely. And I think I think it comes kind of round as well to another sort of part of the facility that we have is the anti-gravity treadmill. So that's based in the gym, and that's a fantastic bit of kit. That's another big USP for us, and we get people moving at lower percentages of their body weight on that. So you can run at either 100% body weight on a normal treadmill, and what this does is you run on essentially a cushion of air at different percentages of body weight, right down to about 20% body weight if you're really struggling, and that just means that people who can't necessarily move particularly well for whatever reason, whether that's through injury or degenerative diseases, it means that it frees them up to move again, and that's really empowering for people. And it, like I say, it's in the facility again. It's right next to the sprint track, so there's people working up and down there, and they're alongside someone who's working on the anti-gravity, which is huge because they can see, where they're trying to get to. Basically, they can see there's an end point to that process. They're not kind of in the corner away from things, like you say, like kept outside of everything else that's going on.
I also noticed, I think this is another USP that you have here, is a piece of equipment that allows you to train with less oxygen than normal.
Yeah.
The equipment like to almost mimic altitude training.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so it's one of our more popular bits actually, and I don't know how it works, but it does. Call it magic or whatever. But you switch the machine on. There's a series of pipes that come through to a mask, and we use that for either treadmill conditioning sessions or watt bike conditioning sextions. So another really good one for people coming back from rehab or rehabbing from injuries, because they can work at sub-maximally. Essentially, they can work sub-maximally and still get a good conditioning hit working at in hypoxic conditions. So yeah, we're finding real positive benefits from that. With our more general population or sort of body composition clients who want to lose a bit of weight, there's some research to say that training with altitude or in hypoxic conditions can improve fat loss. So we spin it for them in that sense. And yeah, like I say, it's one of our most popular things. I mean, we've only got 5 masks, so it just means that I'm constantly on the cycle of turning them around, sanitising them, and making sure they're clean and ready to go for the next person to come in. But
that's really cool. I think having equipment like that available for anyone and everyone to use is brilliant, and it's something that you don't get very many places. It's definitely the first place in the UK that I've known about that offers that service.
Yeah, so the company that we bought the unit from, Sporting Edge, they make chambers. So they put chambers into football clubs and rugby clubs, but they also do these units which are individualised. So you can kind of just have a completely isolated. So one person working on the bike or the treadmill at altitude, and one person next to them in normal sort of atmospheric conditions. And again, it's whatever they're kind of training towards. And there's no prerequisites to go on it. You can go on it as part of your session. You can purchase blocks of those. It's not kind of a you have to be a certain type of athlete or a certain level to do any of these sort of or use any of these facilities. It's completely not that. We don't want to segregate people. It's really all inclusive.
That's quality. So we're based in Reading right now.
Yeah.
Pretty good southeast of the UK location, just off the M4.
Yeah.
Probably one of the biggest train stations in the country as well. Just down the road, so easily to get to.
It is good, and that was a big thing for us as well. We didn't want to be kind of tucked away, too far out of the way from, for access for people.
Sure.
We're kind of 10 minutes off the M4 or even less time from the train station. So yeah,
brilliant. And if people want, obviously, I'm going to put links to all these things we.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Chat about in the show notes at the end of the podcast. If people want to find out more about Go Perform, what's the best way for them to do that?
So we are on our website is go-perform.co.uk, and we're on social media as well. And I'm going to have to check our handles on that because they're right here. Wait there. So our Instagram is just Go Perform, one word. And on Twitter we're Go Perform UK, and on Facebook we're Go Perform Reading.
Awesome.
So just basically Go Perform and you'll
so
find us.
Just so people will wonder what that noise was. Just was actually having to lean out the therapy room door to check.
It's because there's a few names.
Because there's a lot to remember.
Brilliant. It's all posted on the wall outside. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay, no, that's great, mate. Thank you very much. So I'm going to kind of go back towards the questions I ask everyone on the podcast. So the next one that I would probably ask you is I know you've spoke about your journey so far and what you've done, leading up to where we are now. What would you say the three key moments are from your career so far?
I think the first one that springs to mind is getting my first full-time S&C job, which was at Reading. So I did my internship there, and that was a kind of right place, right time scenario. I just happened to be at the club when the club got promoted. It'd be very wrong of me to say that they got promoted because I was there. It was the other way around, I think. I was there and the club went up, and I was lucky enough to be in that situation where there's more money comes into the club and you can get offered a full-time role. I think if that hadn't have happened, then I may have found myself drifting into another internship, and I genuinely don't know where I'd be now, based off that, basically, because you don't know. Almost a sliding doors moment. It could have gone in a completely different direction. So, like I say, that's sort of the first one that comes to mind. I think at the moment I'm almost at a place now where it's quite. It's difficult to say without hindsight, but this has a feel of it that's something different as well. Something completely fresh that I've not worked in before. So I said to you downstairs, just working on the business side of things as well. That's a big one for me, and just having to think about not just improving people's performance, whatever that looks like, but thinking with a business mind as well is completely new to me. So yeah, there's two that come to mind. I'll let you know if a third one pops up.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, I always like to keep three as a kind of easy to digest round number, but if there's two really main ones that spring to mind, that's great. If any more spring to mind,
I would say one actually that comes to mind a little more would be not necessarily one single moment, but more a process that happened, and that was again while I was at Reading at the football club. I worked a lot between on-field performance and late-stage rehab, and I worked a lot with a player who had extremely bad luck with injuries. Had a big ACL injury. It didn't reoccur, but it kept him out for a long time. He had knee swelling and all sorts of stuff, and that was a really good positive process for me to be a part of, because it was a challenge, and I think that influenced a lot of how I approach coaching people who are in a difficult place now. Awesome. and also kind of the rewards that you get out of that at the end of it. He came back and was made captain the following season, and had a really positive time after that. So that's another one that kind of comes to mind, I guess.
Awesome. I was waiting for you to say when you met me and we started tutoring.
That's on the other end of the spectrum, mate.
Okay,
yeah, it's something I try and forget.
I have got to try and get that in somewhere. So, for those people who don't know, actually, I'm trying to think how long ago it was, mate. Actually, it was about
Probably 2 years ago, something like that. Yeah.
So, Tristan and I both tutored for strength and conditioning education, and we met, I suppose, about 2 years ago when we ended up tutoring a course together. So we've stayed in touch and kept shared each other's bad jokes.
Yeah.
Drunk too much coffee.
Yeah.
Etc. Everything. All the
bad
strength
jokes tend to be fueled by like good coffee. To be
exactly.
fair. Yeah.
Everything every strength and conditioning coach does.
Yeah.
Awesome. So just moving on then. So what would you say right now as a strength and conditioning coach? I'm not by trade, but I suppose almost now like a sports scientist or a sports performance coach. Is that fair to say?
I'd say so. Yeah.
What would you say your three top areas of interest are for you personally as a professional?
I think one right now that I'm kind of diving a bit deeper into. I'm listening to an audio book at the moment called Thinking Fast and Slow by Kahneman. I think the surname of the author is, but it's quite a long listen. I'm about halfway through, but it's fascinating. It's really about the two systems of our mind, and the reactive thinking system, the one that initially reacts to situations, and also the slower thinking system that is a little more logical, but also a little lazier, that doesn't let the kind of instinct or just lets instinct take control of you. So it's I'm sort of reflecting a lot on that at the moment, and kind of thinking about going with your gut versus taking time to reflect on decisions and where that goes, and that's starting to, I think, play a little bit of a part in how I go about not just work but just kind of life and how you find yourself in different situations. So yeah, that's a big kind of point that I'm looking at in terms of strength and conditioning and actually areas of interest for myself at the moment. We've got there's a big endurance athlete population around Reading. So there's loads in fact, triathlete clubs. We've got a few people passing through here that are training for London Marathon. Had a gent training for Boston Marathon, which I think has just been. So a big part is sort of the strength and kind of physical preparation for endurance athletes. I've upskilled myself a fair bit in terms of looking at that, and it's not just a case of developing muscular endurance and these kind of traditional models that you might think about, or even just increase your running volume over the course of 6 months until you hit a marathon. What can you do to supplement what you do on the road, essentially, or on the bike, or in the pool? So yeah, that's another thing that I've sort of been really, really keen to look at. And we touched on it already in terms of the altitude stuff as well. I've done a bit of reading around the effects of altitude training and what kind of dose response you might get because of that, or what's a good kind of area to work around. So yeah, a little bit into altitude training because it's becoming more and more popular here. It's just good to have that conversation with people and help them understand, why am I wearing this mask and absolutely blowing when I feel like I should be, I'm running at a speed that is dead easy and I'm absolutely blowing. So, what's in it for me?
Awesome.
So yeah, something I ask myself. So I need to answer that question, basically.
That's brilliant. No, they're great answers, mate. Thanks for sharing that. And I think it's always good to have things that you always are, I suppose, intrigued or passionate about knowing more.
Yeah.
It does come across when you explain it to people, or people ask you about them. Like, you can tell if someone really is interested in something by the way that they respond, or they're just trying to pay lip service.
No, I agree, and I think if I'm kind of trying to, and this might help with this book that I'm listening to, this Thinking Fast and Slow, but I call it a personality trait or whatever, but a lot of the time I kind of see something new or something interesting and I dive into that, so it could be to the detriment of something else that I'm currently on. So we could have this conversation in 6 months' time and I could give you 3 different answers. Hopefully that won't be the case, because I can build on stuff that I'm learning at the moment. But yeah, that's.
I think it's nice to sometimes not know the answer, isn't it?
Yeah.
It gives you a bit of a fresh attack.
It puts all out of a job if there was a perfect answer. Wouldn't it?
Exactly. Cool. So without digressing too much, I'm going to keep, as you know, all these questions top threes. But if they've only got top twos, that's fine.
Cool.
What would you say to date with your experience in some very interesting fields in professional football, in Formula One, in the corporate training environments? What would you say the top three most valuable things you've learned are, as a strength and conditioning coach, or just as a person by being there?
Yeah, I think, like you said there, from going from football to Formula One, the biggest thing that I learned from that transition was the culture.
Right.
And now that I'm in a facility where we have a number of different athletes from different sports come through, culture is massive. So I think it was almost a steep learning curve when I went from football, where I was quite ingrained in the culture of that sport, and you spend a lot of time living, breathing it, and the competitive juices get flowing in terms of in a football environment, as they do in any sport. And then moving to Formula One, which is an individual sport, or at least the teams pretend it's a team sport, but the drivers think it's an individual sport. So depending on who you ask, but that shows you that just the difference in culture, and I think that took me something to kind of figure out was, this is worlds apart in terms of how you conduct yourself day to day.
Yeah, sure.
The impression that people have of you when they see you, how you present yourself. I think there's, you've got to be professional and present yourself professionally in anything you do. But there's different nuances to that between sports, I'm finding, and athletes pick up on different things, and there's different personality traits with different athletes and in different sports, and so I think that sort of, like I say, it's a big word, culture, but that sort of thing that comes to mind is just knowing how to work with a football player compared to a racing driver, compared to a rower, a rugby player, whatever they're doing, and how you can hold a conversation and get buy-in from them is massive. And that was, like I say, that was a big steep learning curve for me. And one that I probably go on every time I come across someone who's in a sport that I've not come across. So
yeah, sure.
So we just got a guy started with us this week who does 3-day eventing, never worked with anyone from that side of the tracks before. So something completely different for me.
Yeah.
I probably talk to him in a different way that I talk to a rower, to a football player, to anyone else. So and coach him in a different way, more to the point.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Because as you know, I've come up to a year now on one of my main roles at St Paul's School in London, and we have 15 main sports, but 10 accessory sports. Where the school offers up to over 25 sports. Yeah, and the difference in the personality types of each boy who participates, no matter what the level, is incredible. Yeah, and I think culture and how the language you use, or how you structure your sessions, it has to be individualised, not just to the person but to the sport, because everyone has been used to doing those things so differently. Yeah, I agree. If you change it around too much, I think it can you can lose buy-in. Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I think it's important for the athlete to know that you are at least aware of how they operate.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the other thing as well. You can't. It's a sort of cheesy line that I've heard now and again, but it does. I think it does ring true in that they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Mm-hmm. And I think that, like I say, it's a nice little soundbite, but it does ring true. Yeah. And that that could be another one. I when I started at Reading, I didn't kind of. I thought I knew what the culture was going to be like there. I thought I knew what the personality traits were going to be like there, because I grew up playing rugby, and that was another steep learning curve. You know, you can't turn up thinking that football players are going to act and behave and train the same as you know I might have been used to playing rugby through my.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Sort of younger years and at uni, so quite different, and exciting to change it up now and again.
Awesome. I should have really asked you this before we started recording, but how much time do you think we've got left to go? It's just gone 5 o'clock. When do you need to be somewhere?
I'm all right really until 6, but
okay. Well, we definitely won't take that long.
Yeah, no.
Probably we're going to do another 20 minutes if that's all right.
That's fine.
So we're whizzing through these questions. So the next one, which is probably the one I find the most interesting, I ask all my guests, is who are your top 3 influences?
Yeah.
Not just in professionally, but just in life.
Yeah. So professionally, 2 that come to mind are Dan John and Ron McKeefery.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen Dan John talk a couple of times, and I've read a bunch of his stuff, and that's the biggest thing that I get from him is the simplicity of it. If I'm ever kind of get overwhelmed with the amount of information that's in this industry and the opinions that are in this industry, it's good to kind of take it all back to something that's as simplistic as he can make it, and that's quite refreshing a lot of the time. So yeah, that's quite nice to kind of, like I say, keep yourself filtered, or keep what you hear filtered through something like that. I'd say Ron McKeefery's book, The CEO Strength Coach, was a big influence in terms of, I think a big, and again it's another sort of soundbite, but making the big time where you're at. I think that's kind of that's something that holds true to me, and basically never kind of looking too far into the future and saying, actually, I don't want to be here, I want to be there, and doing well and doing diligently by where you're at the moment, and what will be will be. If you do have ambitions of going elsewhere, then what will be, but there's nothing greater than pushing the current environment you're at to be the absolute best it can be, and I've kind of used that in other roles I've been in, and still try and use that kind of day to day as well. So that's more kind of I don't know those guys personally, but they've had, like I say, they've had professional influence on me. I'd say as well, like Dan and Luke I've mentioned also earlier on, who set this up. I think on a day-to-day basis, like they've kind of taken a leap and they've put a lot of their own money into this place, and so far it's paying off. But I think the positivity that they bring day to day is huge, and that kind of, you can't help but be inspired and influenced by that, because they come in and there could be any number of things going on in their life outside of go perform, but you wouldn't know about it. They come in here that doesn't affect them, come in delivering like world-class service to people, and you can only try and strive to be as positive and as kind of and on the same level as them. So yeah, those two guys are massive at the moment for me in terms of trying to push myself through the positivity and just bringing that to the table and not letting things kind of weigh you down, and yeah, bringing it nice and 100% every day.
It's great when you're surrounded by energetic and passionate people.
Yeah.
No matter where you are.
Yeah, you feed off that.
Whether it's work or just generally in life. I mean, I look at all my, I suppose, influences and friends, colleagues and friends now, and they all share the similar traits. They're all very passionate about what they do. They're all very energetic and willing to. I think. Well, the other thing is, willing to help each other out.
Yeah.
And share knowledge.
Yeah.
With no catches.
Yeah, I think, and that's something I always try and do. You know, if there's any, like we've already mentioned, the courses that me and you run with S&C Education, and you know, I'm never guarded about anything that I do. We've covered in this podcast that we do quite a lot. So often it's not something that can be fully discussed over a 5-minute conversation in a lunch break or a coffee or whatever. But I'm never guarded about what we do. I think anything that I do because I think it's good and I think it works. So I'm always happy to have a conversation about that. There's no point kind of, you know, being guarded about that or putting up walls, because at the end of the day we're all on the same team. We're all trying to get athletes or human beings to the next level and pushing on their performance. So yeah, I don't see the need in slowing that process down like unnecessarily. So
I mean, that's what this podcast is all about, really. I mean, I've listened to lots of awesome podcasts, you know, Ron's particularly, which is brilliant.
Really good, yeah.
And, you know, it's just, I don't think there's as many of these types of sports science, strength and conditioning, sports performance podcasts around in the UK. So, yeah, the main reason for setting these up, I mean, this is episode number 4 now, which...
I'm in single figures. I mean,
I know you're one of the
founding member.
One of the originals, yeah. So it's great just to kind of share knowledge and get stuff out there, because you know time is precious, and if you know our listeners or my listeners are anything like us, then that's something they don't have enough of.
Yeah.
So to be able to whack this on the train or in the car or you know, before bed and just listen to people chew their fat. I think it's nice because it confirms thoughts, also, as we said earlier, that people think they have but might question.
Yeah, and I get that from podcasts myself, and even having conversations with you and Brendan and everyone else that's part of our kind of network of people, or you know, even talking to athletes that you train, you kind of get a handle on, actually, yeah, this is going in the right direction. It's easy to kind of think in the car on the way home, like, I'm not sure I'm doing the right thing with this person, or I don't know if this is going the right direction. But it only takes, like, you know, in 2 minutes you could be like, actually, yeah, I'm pretty happy with where things are. And you know, I think it's good to question yourself, because otherwise you just become, you know, known for doing one thing and one thing only. So I'm always open to being sort of self-critical, positively self-critical, but at the same time it's nice to know that there's people in the same boat, and there's people you can share knowledge and sort of share experiences with, or bad jokes with, either way.
Well, you know, there's nothing wrong with sharing bad jokes, mate. I've had some absolute corkers this week, but unfortunately I'm not going to be able to repeat them whilst we're recording. So the next question I had, which again is another one of my favourite ones to ask, just because I can basically steal people's answers and use them for myself, is, what would you say your top 3 resources are for new information?
Well, it would be this soon. Now that I'm number 4, number 5
answer.
going on.
Good answer, yeah.
No. So, but I think, in all seriousness, I think, like you said, there's not a lot of people in the UK that do a lot of these. There's tons on Apple Store that American based, and I listen to a bunch of those as well. But I think it's great that like guys like yourself are doing this. So thank you for that.
Pleasure.
One that I do listen to as well is Rob Pacey's Pacey Performance podcast. I know Rob. We did our masters at St Mary's together. So yeah, he's a really great guy, and he's got a few bad jokes in the locker as well, I think. But
it's a trait of every conditioning coach.
But yeah, no, his podcast is great, and he's got some great names on his podcast, and a good library of people there as well. So I like when we started our half-term kids S&C program, I went back and listened to a bunch of his youth athlete themed podcasts and got a ton more information out of those. So that's one. I know you said new information, but I think, you know, textbooks are always valuable. So Essentials of Strength Training and Conditioning is kind of a Bible. You can't there's not a lot in there that you can't say isn't, you know, a cornerstone of your basic knowledge. It's always good to kind of dip back in and out of that, and as well, it's high performance training. What's the David Joyce one? High performance training for sports, I think it is.
There's a lot out there.
David Joyce and Dan Lewington edited it, and I'm sorry I can't remember the title of it, but it's a brilliant book.
So what? This is going to test my organisational skills. So I've got about.
Might want to edit that to make it slicker.
That's all right. I can edit it, but I think it shows people we're human, mate. We forget things.
High performance training for sports. That's it.
Yeah. So that's in my reading library, which I've just created actually here. So I've got my top 30 probably.
Wow. Yeah.
S&C sports science textbooks, and also my top 8 articles, S&C articles.
Yeah.
So loads to read, not enough time to read it, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but no, that is a brilliant book. I used that a lot when I was at uni, and it's brilliant. It's quite easy to digest as well.
Yeah. And it's put together by a bunch of really relevant and current practitioners in the field in like high-end sports. So yeah, it's great to hear like kind of their thoughts on a lot of things. I'd say the third one is on Twitter I follow Jan Lemmer, who puts out the infographics.
Brilliant
And a lot of the stuff he does is about it's quite recent journal articles, really easy to digest. You can get a good idea about a training study or some kind of intervention and the kind of upshots of all of that, just with a 5-minute look over a coffee break or whatever that is. So yeah, that's probably the third, and I use that. I come across him on Twitter quite a lot and actively look at all the stuff he does.
I think the ability to save yourself time that you can't afford to read an entire research study.
Yeah.
By either you're looking at an infographic. I use a lot of strength and conditioning research. A lot as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And it's not being lazy because you don't want to read the whole study, but to read a whole study from cover to cover is a good hour.
Yeah.
And when you are busy, very busy, in work and life, it's not possible.
Yeah.
Reading infographics or I suppose research snippets, you can probably cover 5 or 6 in an hour.
Yeah.
It usually take you 5 or 6 hours to cover otherwise.
Yeah.
So
No, I totally agree.
I think
that
might upset some people.
Yeah.
I think those people it might upset aren't people who probably people got a lot of time free.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
But
I think what Jan Lemmer's doing is fantastic in terms of like you say, just being time efficient and getting an idea for it. And if it's something that might pique your interest on it, then I think on his website he does links to the full article, so you can dive a bit deeper into it if it's something that you want to go further with. But
that's something I've started doing in putting out an Extreme Sports Performance monthly newsletter. So I'll pick my top 3, purely on a selfish basis, what I consider to be the top 3, but most relevant or recent sports strength conditioning studies with like snippets, but then also links to the full article as well.
Yeah.
It's just good to know
that's
what's out there,
brilliant.
what's changing, what's new. So we're nearly there. So last 3 questions I would say would be, what are your, and this can be completely biased or to you, your preferences or what you feel that you use the most, top 3 sports performance exercises and drills you use with clients or athletes. You can answer that as ones you've always used the most, or ones you're using the most now.
Yeah. One I'm using a lot now, or I have. Well, I guess it has kind of developed more and more as I've gone through different roles. But I'm a bit of a stickler for posture, and whether that's the fact that someone's sat in a desk all day, or if they need to deliver good posture through sprinting, performing their sport, whatever that looks like. And my kind of logic for that is that forces work in straight lines. So if we're in bad posture.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18 plus.
And producing bad shapes when the going gets tough, and you know, if we're lifting heavy, we're under high intensity speed, whatever that might look like, then that's only going to end in disaster. So I'm a bit of a stickler for that, and I use a bunch of different marching and running drills to improve that. You know, whether they compete or work in a static environment, so powerlifters who don't need to run to perform in their sport, for example, I still might get them to do some kind of marching derivative just because it challenges them differently and it gets them thinking about their kind of postural correctness and things like that. So that's always something that I use quite a lot of. One exercise itself, I always say this to my athletes and clients, my kind of desert island exercise that I couldn't live without would be overhead squat. I'm a big fan of. I think it's just again it comes back, I guess, to posture and being strong through the posterior chain and maintaining that integrity. But it's just a really good challenging exercise that checks a lot of egos, because you can't. Well, if you can lift heavy in that, then you're exceptionally strong.
Doesn't have to be heavy to be hard, does it?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's another one. That's two, isn't it? What's the third one? I think anything.
What about conditioning based?
Conditioning based, yeah. So using and it's not really. Again, this isn't really a kind of drill in and of itself, but using max aerobic speed or velocity at VO2 max as a guideline, and I've listened to Dan Baker talk and stuff, and I think he gets a little bit agitated if people say that you are specifically a max aerobic speed guy or this, that, or the other. But no, I sort of see where he's coming from when he says that it's a measure. It's like a 1 RM. It's your 100%, and if you work over that, you're into your anaerobic kind of energy pathways, and under that, you're obviously working aerobically. So I use that in different kind of environments, and like we were talking about with the altitude stuff, you're very much sub-maximal for that. But yeah, so that's something that interests me quite a bit really in terms of just playing around with different speeds that people run at, and what the physiological responses are, and what we can expect to happen. There's always, every plan is as good as, only as good as it is on paper, and then when it actually comes to fruition, then you get to see what happens. So I think using that, you get a better sense of, like I say, the physiological responses. And so far, so good.
I've found lots of linear and turning MAS running very useful.
Yeah.
In the past, especially with team sports athletes.
Yeah.
And the one thing which is really good about it is it's very easy to progress and it's very easy to measure. And just by literally adding in an additional rep or like half a metre, can really, really test someone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a great rehab tool I've found from people returning to running.
Yeah, and it gives them a good benchmark to get back to, and where they should be or where they want to be.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. Awesome. So obviously, you, as we say, well, I said earlier, you've been in a lot of different environments. You've done a lot of different things. You've recently just become a dad. Not to
shit. Should I said if he's an influencer on me? Well, Mrs.
So congratulations on that. And also you set up a new business here. So a lot of different, I suppose, life challenges and changes for you, which leads really nicely to this next question: is what would you be? I'm not going to say three, but what would be your top pieces of advice in life, sport, or science right now for you?
I think, like you say, just obviously became a dad, well, relatively recently, 10 months ago. But the older he gets, the more kind of pressing he is on on time, and that sounds really bad. That sounds really negative,
No,
but it's
of
not
course,
at all.
I
But
understand
the more time that consumes.
Yeah.
So just being time efficient and making the most of time spent with him. So I work a bit of a funny pattern here. So I'll leave on a Monday morning, and I won't see him because of his bedtime until Tuesday afternoon, which doesn't sound a lot, but it can be a lot. I've done basically 2 days at work in between times of actually seeing him and spending time with him. So I think making the most of spending time with family and friends is massive. At the end of the day, there's always a bigger picture. There's always something that why you kind of getting up at 5 a.m. and trudging into work in the deepest, darkest winter to try and earn a living and do the best by through your career, and what is the reason for doing that, and for me that's to kind of be a supportive husband and father, and just be good at that, essentially, just to be kind of be there for my family, and that's really important to me. I'm quite lucky in that all of my family lives within about 10 minutes of me.
Awesome.
With the exception of my sister who lives in Ireland, but hopefully she won't listen to this and get offended. But so it's great to kind of see people on a regular basis, and I think a lot of the time we don't realise how lucky we are to kind of be in that situation. In terms of work life and science, I think I learned, certainly when I started my master's, my postgraduate degree, almost on day one was to develop a critical mind, and that was less important, or seemed less important at undergrad. Whether or not that was my perception of it, I don't know, but it's obviously way more important as you go through life and sort of higher levels of learning. But I'm loads more critical of anything that I read, and what's the are there any biases behind any studies? Is the structure of the study crap? Is it going to am I going to be able to actually use this in my day-to-day life? All the way through to things that you hear on the news, and people come and tell me shouldn't eat broccoli because it gives you cancer, and then you should eat broccoli because it gives you cancer, and it's like, well, which one is it? And just developing this sort of critical filter, I think, is really important to kind of have, and not take everything as read, which I think can happen a lot of the time.
I think that's a brilliant answer. I completely agree with you, mate. Like, the older I've got, which is always older than I think I am, that you become less tolerant to the bullshit.
Yeah,
you?
I agree. Yeah,
At the end of the day, is it going to directly affect my life and what I do, and the things that are important in my life and what I do? The answer is no. I usually don't care.
Yeah, and I agree. I started saying to my wife recently, because we've got so much time, or time is so precious, that there's certain things that I just don't need to worry myself with. I don't need to lose sleep over something, so I just filter that. I just say to her, if we're having a conversation about something that's concerning her, then obviously it's important, it concerns her. But if there's something that's can just be filtered, then I'll just say to her, let's just filter that. That's not important. We don't need to worry about that. It's not going to affect us. It's not going to be. It's not worth. I haven't got any more hair to lose, mate. So there's not any point in losing hair over it, or
more
losing
in
sleep
that
over it.
very, very fashionable beard.
Well, yeah. It's going great, mate. Anyway.
Makes you look wise. So awesome. So just finally, what are you coming up in the next month? Any big events?
So a big one for us at the moment is looking towards the off season. There's a lot of team sports coming into their off season, and we're pushing for getting a bunch of fresh faces down here,
cool.
And helping those guys out. It's not somewhere that we get somebody in the door and then they're our person for the rest of their lives. If we can help somebody out that lives nearby but plays at a club on the other side of the country, then we'll spend 6 weeks working with them the best we can and get them to a good place to go on to the next one. So that's the big one coming up on my side of things anyway, in terms of performance. Further down the line, possibly later into the summer or into the autumn, we're looking at developing into the corporate side of things. So corporate wellness is going to be a big one for us. Reading has a big industrial park nearby, so there's quite a few big businesses that we're having conversations with about how can we improve workforce performance through exercise, through treatment, massage, things like that, and that's very much in the kind of developmental stages at the moment. But hopefully later in the year that can come to fruition.
Awesome. Good stuff, exciting stuff, and most importantly, hopefully, touching wood, the sun will be out.
Any day now, yeah?
So
any day now, you promise. You're okay, you've just been in Portugal. You failed to mention that you've just been in Portugal.
I was trying to save that one in the back pocket, but we've just been to Browns with St Paul's School track and field team. Head of athletics and another one of our doctors of mathematics who used to be an ex-GB heptathlete, so he came with us.
Wow.
And it was really good actually. We had about 20 boys from 14 to 18 there. Some had never done athletics before, some were very, very good national level athletes, and it was brilliant. The facilities we stayed at were unbelievable. The food that we had at our resort was all catered for us.
Yeah.
And the track we went to every day was brilliant. So
awesome.
It was quite a good experience for me. Really enjoyed it, and also most importantly, I mean, you haven't said it yet, but got a little bit of tan. So that was good.
I thought it was sunburn, mate. It looks a little more.
Okay. Anyway, moving on from there. So just before we go and wrap things up, where can people get hold of you, mate, if they want to contact you?
So I'm trying to, again, time is precious, but I am trying to be more active on social media, and I keep telling myself I'm going to get on Instagram and start putting out some of the stuff that we do here at Go Perform, because like I say, I think it's good, and I'm happy to share that with people and start conversations with people. But so I'm not on that yet, but on Twitter I'm at Tristan Baker 7, and my email is tristan@go-perform.co.uk. So people can just send me over an email if they've got any questions or anything, or want to get in touch. I'm more than happy to kind of to open a conversation. Like I say, busy, but I do read every email. I don't ignore people. So if I don't get back to someone, then hopefully I will soon.
Yeah. Awesome, Tristan. Thanks very much for your time, and we really appreciate you chatting to me and us about everything we've covered.
Thank you, mate, and thanks again for doing things like this. I think it's really valuable for the industry.
Pleasure. No, I really enjoy it, and just something we want to do for a long time, and hopefully the consistency and the quality will continue to improve over time. But thanks very much, and we'll be back with another episode of the Extreme Sports Performance Podcast very soon. Thanks for listening to the 4th episode. We hope you enjoyed the show. Please don't hesitate to leave us a rating or review on your listening platform of choice. If you haven't already, please check out our website. We have weekly blogs on our blog page. You can sign up to our monthly newsletter via our sign up page. Our online store consists of personal coach, training programs, nutrition plans, interactive training systems, toolbox, and coming very soon, membership packages. We also have several social media platforms: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Links to all these can be found at the bottom of every page on our website or via any search engine. That's all for now. Until next time, take care.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.